This better work. Okay, I think we are good to go now. Hi friends, welcome back. This is Bleed Through episode number 6. My name is Haspa and I am the owner of Preston Avery Design located in Richmond, Rosenberg, Texas. I am over on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook as Preston Avery Design. If you want to continue the conversation over there, please follow me on all my social media. I'd love to have you. I've been having some technical difficulties today. Let me tell you guys, the enemy is busy, but I am ready. I'm prepared. So glad to be back. I took some time off last week for some mental health, and it was very much needed. I'm going to pull up comments today because I want to be able to chat today and talk to you guys. So let me pull this up while we get started. I got it. Okay. Stand that down. All right. So welcome everyone. I'm going to go ahead and jump right into today's project. I'm going to be using some salt wash and I'm going to use old school, and we're going to paint these little candle holders that I thrifted quite a while back, and I have so many of them. So what I want to do to these is a cement treatment. So as I'm painting these, we'll go ahead and talk about today's story. And I'm really nervous because it's really personal, it's really intimate, and some people in my family don't even know the story that I'm about to share with you guys. Isn't that amazing how you can be so comfortable in one community but not the other? So that's how I feel about my creative community. Let me go ahead and push my chair back so I can get this table for you guys. All right. So I'm going to use this empty can here to mix my salt wash because I don't want to mix it into my can here. And I'm only going to do just a little bit to finish these today. And the reason I'm doing this so that I can replace the top when I need to. And I said I was going to get my comments. Hey Rachel, how's it going? Good to see you, hon. All right, if you saw the title today, we're going to talk about my story of loss, conception, and faith. Why are we talking about this? Well, something happened with my business recently that could have been not so positive. It was kind of stressful, but it was a defining moment for my business because it pushed me out of my comfort zone and led me to make a decision that I probably would not have been ready to make if it wasn't for the circumstance at hand. And I will share that later on. I just want to make sure that I do it in a way that is tasteful and, presents everyone involved, in a positive light. So I do need time to just confirm with the other parties involved and make sure everyone's comfortable being part of that story. But anyway, so that story took me back to a season of my life. And that was before my son was born. It was in 2018. So something happened to me and my husband. I'm mixing my salt wash and I'm doing it a little thick, but I think I might need more paint. But anyway, so something happened to me and my husband. We got married in 2016. It was the happiest day of my life. I had so much fun at my wedding. I danced the whole night. I was totally that bride that danced to every song. So much so that by the end of the night, I lost my glasses and I lost one of my shoes. So somewhere in my closet, there's one shoe from my wedding. And so that's how much fun I had. I lost shoes and I lost my glasses. But anyway, so we dated for 2 years. We dated for a year and a half. We were engaged for 9 months, so a total of 2 years. But before that, we were friends for 7 years. So we had been, we're friends for a while. So when we got married, we decided that we were going to wait at least 1 year to start a family. And of course, you know how we are as humans. We like to make plans. We like to tell God what to do. So that's exactly what we did. I told the Lord that within 1 year of being married, I wanted to have a baby. Well, we got pregnant a month after our 1 year anniversary, like right to the T. And so our anniversary is in March and we conceived in April. So like literally a month after our 1 year anniversary. And shortly after that, sadly, we found out that we had lost our first pregnancy. Now, that was extremely heartbreaking for me. It was a really difficult time. And I know that miscarriages happen. A lot of people go through them. And, everyone handles it differently. And no one, no situation is better than the other. Loss is loss. And so the conditions around my situation just, made it extra difficult for me to cope with. By the way, so I'm going to go ahead and just get my salt wash on there. I'm going to do that cement treatment I was talking about. But anyway, so I took my loss really, really hard. I think the reason I took it so hard was because when we went to the doctor and we found out that, we had miscarried, I needed to have a procedure done. I needed a medical procedure, and I could not have that procedure that same day. I ended up having to wait 2 extra days. I don't know why. My doctor said that she had a particular medicine she preferred to use, and that medicine wasn't available in the hospital, and it wouldn't be available for another 48 hours. So I was sent home to wait because, I didn't miscarry like most women did. My fetus stopped growing, but it wasn't expelled. And so I had to go home and wait 2 days. And so those 2 days of waiting and knowing what was at the end of the 2 days traumatized me. And the reason I was traumatized is because I was walking around, and what I perceived in my head, I was walking around. On the surface, I looked okay, but on the inside, I was dead. And I just remember feeling dead inside, metaphorically, but also because I was carrying something in my womb that was dead. And so no one could tell on the outside, but inside I knew. And it was really, really hard. And I remember one time, we lived in an apartment at that time, and I had to go take out the trash. And, we didn't have a door-to-door trash pickup that you fancy people have. So we had to take our own trash to the dumpster. And I remember walking to the dumpster, and it was a short walk, but I remember that walk. And when I was taking that walk, I just remember cars driving by, people walking by, waving and saying hello, and I'm waving back. And I'm thinking to myself, these people are seeing me, but they don't know I'm dead inside. And I really felt dead inside, and I was so, so broken. And so the 2 days passed, and we went in to have my procedure, and of course came the recovery time. But what I do remember and what I want to talk about today is faith when things seem dead. I want to talk about faith when everything you've worked for seems to be gone, where it seems like nothing is working, where you don't have the will to go on. I want to talk about faith in terms of resurrection. I want to talk about having things in your life that are dead be resurrected through faith. And so shortly after that, I recovered physically, but mentally I was never recovered. And we got the okay to go ahead and, start trying again for baby number 2. I said baby number 2 because I don't know. But anyway, so we got the okay to start trying again. And it took 8 months of trying. And I know that's not a long time, but to me, it felt like a lifetime. And during that time of waiting, I lost faith. I lost my will to work. I lost my will to do the things that I loved. I lost my will to serve the Lord because I was so angry. And I was a leader at that time in an organization. And I was responsible for shepherding a group of women. And I really felt like I was an imposter, and I really couldn't do it. I could not shepherd effectively because inside I was so mad at God, and I was so numb, and I wanted nothing to do with all the things that made me who I was. And hey, Judy. And so I literally had given up. I quit. And so by God's grace, one day in my leadership meeting for this organization, our teaching leader tells us, she gives us some cards and tells us that we should write a letter to God. It was around the time I was studying the book of Romans. So in this organization, you spend an entire year on whatever book you're studying. So this season, it was the book of Romans. And we were studying the scripture about all things working together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And I just really didn't understand where the good was in my situation. And I just couldn't see what the purpose was. But our teaching leader gave us an assignment, and the assignment was to write a letter to God. So I wrote a letter. And I thought about reading it here today, but I didn't want to bore you guys. But anyway, so I wrote a letter, and I remember specifically telling God about his promises to me and the things that he had promised me. And I told him that I had an expectant heart, and I was praying that he would bless me with the fruit of the womb. And I was reaching out on faith, and I stopped being angry. I stopped being mad. And I said I was going to trust. And so I did. And so 8 months later, we conceived on March 3rd. It's funny that I remember the date. Well, I don't know if that's the date, but when I went to the doctor, that's what she said. It was March 3rd of 2018. And then my pregnancy is another story. That was another testimony too, because it was a really challenging time. But I'll share that later. So anyway, so we got pregnant, and I carried to term, and on December 4th, my son Preston Avery was born. And life went on. And then 9 months later, that stage where kids put everything in their mouth. Let me show you what this looks like. There it is. I'm just covering it in salt wash. So 9 months later, when we got to that stage where kids put everything in their mouth, we had this bookshelf that was full of books. And one day as I was cleaning the house, Preston was sitting by that bookshelf, playing with some of the materials that were on there. And out of nowhere, I came by to check on him, and he had something in his mouth. He had a card in his mouth. So I took it from him, and I opened it. And when I opened it, it was the letter that I had written to God months ago before he was even conceived. And so I opened that letter and I read it. And as I read it, I sat on the floor next to him, and I looked at him and I cried. And I picked him up and I started hugging him so tightly. Then he started crying because he didn't understand what was going on. But what that moment did for me was something that I could have never done for myself. Because you see, sometimes we pray and then we forget our prayers, but then God still answers, right? And every now and then you need signs for him to remind you of his faithfulness. And that was a reminder for me. That was a big reminder about his faithfulness. And I remember exactly the moment, the season I was in when I wrote that letter. And now I'm seeing out of my son's mouth was this letter that I had written to God, praying to God about him. And in that moment, I tell people all the time that becoming a mother really strengthened my faith. It really strengthened my walk with the Lord, because that moment was so critical in my faith journey. It was such a big deal to me. And I was so moved, I was so overwhelmed, I was so overjoyed, because right then and there, God used my son to remind me that, hey, do you remember this is what you prayed about? Because you see, I had forgotten. And the thing is that the Lord heals us so well that we forget we're ever in need of healing. I was at that stage where I had been healed so well that I forgot, those cries, those prayers. But then the Lord reminded me, because you see, he knew that in the future I would need it, especially, as a creative business owner. Because every time now I doubt myself and things aren't going well with my business, I remember. And that's really the reason I named my business Preston Avery, because it was conceived out of the conception of him. And so I wanted to share that story with you guys to encourage you. I wanted to let you know that There are things in your life that appear dead, but I want you to know, guys, that we serve a God who is in the business of answering prayers, and he is a resurrecting God. Especially right now, our businesses, things seem so slow, and I'm reading everyone's feeling so discouraged. I want to encourage you, know that there is nothing impossible for God. Let your cries, let your prayers, let your needs, let your desires be known unto God, and I promise you, hold on to faith. And even when you don't see things happening, when you don't see how, just know that God knows how. Believe that he has equipped you with everything you need to do what you need to do what he's called you to do, right? You just have to trust. And every now and then, you've got to remind God his promises. But, we also have to do the work. Because you see, I sometimes wonder, had it not been for my grumbling heart, because I was so hardened, because I was so angry and I was reactive to my first loss, I wonder if it hadn't been for that, would my waiting period been shorter? But you see, I was so angry that I could not see all the wonderful things that were happening in my life. And I forgot about God's timing and how his timing is so much better than our timing. Because you know what, friends? When I gave birth to Preston, we were in a position where I could stay home, where I could be a stay-at-home mom. Whereas if it happened before, I would not have been able to stay at home. And so, but you see, I couldn't see all of those things. I couldn't think that far because I was so focused on what was going wrong. I forgot to see everything else, and I lost sight of the possibilities. Don't be so blindsided by the negative, by the things that are not going well. Be positive, remain faithful, and know that something good is coming. The scripture says, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose, not our own purpose, right? We're so good at telling God what we want and what we think he should do. We forget that he's the one in charge. And so that's one thing that has helped me drive my creative business is, having faith. And, art imitates life, right? For me, it's really hard to separate my creative life from my personal life, because I think my creative life adds so much color and so many layers to my personal life, right? But then my personal life feeds into my creative life. And so it's all connected. And the reason I wanted to do this segment and call it Lead Through is because I wanted to communicate that the two are not separate. As a creator, as a creative person, the two are connected. Your personal life and your creative life, right? And so if in your personal life, you're a person who's doubtful, you're a negative person, you just constantly, you're a Debbie Downer, you beat yourself up, you're so hard on yourself, those things are going to translate in your creativity. And you're going to find that you struggle to be creative. But when you can flip your personal life, your faith, your walk of faith, believing in something higher than you, when you can do that, when you can turn that on, you will find that the two are related. When I tell myself that I'm fully capable of everything that God has entrusted me with, I find that things in my business, go in the right direction. And when I'm sitting there just beating myself down, being negative, I find that my business does the same thing. But God has shown me through my personal life that he is the God who resurrects things. And so, I'm going to tell you guys this, don't laugh at me. In June, I just opened a retail space in April. So my second full month, I made $27 in my retail space, and I wanted to quit. Let me tell you guys, I was thinking to myself, you mean I did all of this work? I sold 2 pieces of furniture that month. I sold several smalls, but after rent, fees, commission, I made $27. And I was so discouraged. And I had to remind myself, my business is not dead. It looks dead to me, but I serve a God who is a resurrecting God. And so I've been in need of new materials and new inventory. And then something happened this past week with my business that could have totally derailed me and almost made me want to quit. But I remembered to trust God, and a situation that seemed impossible, something turned around for my good. And I remembered I serve a resurrecting God. There's nothing in my life that he cannot resurrect. And I know I'm supposed to be telling you my coming to America story because you guys love that story so much. But I felt compelled to encourage you guys today and to let you know that there is something in your life that you think is dead. And I'm here to tell you that it can be resurrected through faith. Believe that God will do it. Believe that you are capable. Believe in yourself. And I promise you, friend, it is going to happen. Something good is going to come up out of whatever situation you are going through that seems hopeless. Just know that it can be done and it will be done. Because guess what, friends? We have no choice but to do it. Because if you don't do it, there are gifts in you that the world needs. And if you don't bring them, they will not be brought. And there's someone out there that's depending on you to make your dreams come to life so that they can see that it can be done, so that they'll know that it can be done. And shortly after we moved into my home here, I had not really a neighbor or a person, but someone go through a similar situation that I went through. But because I had been there before, I was able to minister to them. So know that everything that happens to you is not it's not just for pain. There is gain at the end of that pain. You guys look at this. Look at how they're looking. So I'm going to let these dry. And once they dry, I'm going to do some white wax. And I want them to look like cement. And I think this will look great for Christmas. We're getting ready for the holiday season. So I'm starting to do some Christmas items. I wanted to share that with you guys. I hope that you have been encouraged. I hope that you feel encouraged. And so I want to spend the next few minutes, taking some questions, answering some questions. I heard that you guys want to dig deeper because I can never see your comments, but I'm really working on that. I'm working on doing better. So if anyone has anything that they want to ask me that, you've been dying to ask, I would be more than happy to do so right now. Jody, thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that because this is really difficult for me to do, but I feel so called to do it. I feel so convicted to do it. And so no matter how silly I feel, I will hang in there. I'll keep showing up as long as you guys let me share. But I think that's all I have for today. If no one else wants to dig deeper into anything, if you're watching over from, thank you so much. Thank you guys for letting me share. My name is Hesper again. I am the owner and creator of Preston Avery Design. I am over on Facebook and Instagram as well as YouTube as Preston Avery Design. This is Bleed Through, where we talk about stories from the inside and find ways to overcome adversity through creativity. Thank you so much for those thumbs up. I'm gonna let these dry and then we'll white wax them, and hopefully I'll remember to bring them and show you guys next Sunday. Talk to you later, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.